when you're in this position, there's this little fear in the back of your head that says like, oh, if you let your walls down, if you show them the deep, dark depths of Nicole Baker, you're not going to be someone they look up to anymore. And I know that's not true. I know that's not true. And in fact, whenever I've let walls down with people before, whether it's on this podcast or in coaching calls or group coaching calls, there's been this shift in the energy in the room, in the show, and I can feel it shifting into what I want it to become. What is up, sweet, beautiful friends, and happy new year. Dude, my voice just got so high, only dogs could hear me. Welcome back to another episode of the Life Coach Baker podcast, where we talk about all things goal setting, perfectionism, healthy productivity, and of course, how to live in a perfectly full life in this 21st century. I almost had to do a double check that it was still the 21st century. That's not how this works, Nicole. I am your host now and always, Nicole Baker. And in case you missed it last week, we've got a new intro. I would love to hear what you all think. We got some fun. We got some bubbly. It makes me think of like those little champagnes that we pop on the new year. That's not how you say that sentence. Today, Happy New Year. I love you all so much. And I hope you're having a kick-ass start to 2023. We are going to be discussing 5 things that me personally, I am letting go of in 2023. And I hope that this inspires you to start thinking of, it doesn't have to be 5, but some things that you are wanting to let go of 2023 as well. We always think about adding stuff, right? What goals am I going to achieve this year? A business, a habit, or multiple habits, a morning routine. I'm going to go to the gym. I want to do a visualization practice that's 40 minutes long every single day because that's supposed to work, ! Air quotes. But what this does is when we add too much stuff in, I want you to think almost like of a bag or something, like a Trader Joe's grocery bag. And you're stuffing all this stuff in. You have your bananas, you have your frozen fruit, you have your pizza, you have that orange chicken because it's so fucking good. You have all this different stuff that you're stuffing in. Eventually, it's going to overflow. And we, like that, get into overwhelm when it's overflowed. Our bag can literally break if there's too much stuff in it, right? And so often when our bag is to the point of breaking, we just, we'll say, oh, I'll just miss today. I'll start again tomorrow. And then we never do. Or, by the way, that's not to say that you can't skip a day. I love James Clear's thought process around you miss one day, that's totally fine, but I never missed 2 days twice. That makes sense. You never miss a day twice. There you go. That's it. Which I really enjoy. Obviously, that is not including the asterisk that says, leave room for grace. You're a human. But when we are stuffing our bags so much that we're in this point of bag breaking, we hit that overwhelm button. When that overwhelm button is pushed in our brain, we get into that like fight, flight, freeze mode, right? We procrastinate. We talk negatively to ourselves, and it just really doesn't give us a lot of, motivation, a lot of that good feeling that we're wanting to create by adding all these things in. So instead, what I like to do at the beginning of the year is rather than thinking about, okay, what are all the things I'm adding to 2023? I also marry that with what am I going to take away? What am I letting go of coming into this new year? Which, by the way, this is a question pulled straight from my new year in review. So if you are saying, oh, I haven't gotten to it, it's January 3rd, it's too late for me, I want to call bullshit on that because it is never too late. You can do your new year in review in July for all I care. You can do it in October. There is no arbitrary, there is no specific date. It's all arbitrary. But the reason I like to do it in the new year is because there's something called the blank slate effect. And it basically just means, anytime you start a new journal, it's kind of like, that first journal entry feels so good. Or whenever you move, decorating a new apartment or a home just feels so fun and different. The new year is very similar. It's that blank slate effect. It's I can do anything. And so I like to take advantage of what's already naturally happening in our brain, in our society. And by the way, when we lean into our brain's strengths, when we take advantage of that, we are leaning into our strengths, which makes things easier for us to follow through on. We make life so freaking hard for ourselves. So I love looking at what are some ways that are naturally happening as the year progresses, and how can I use that to its full advantage? And by the way, if you're like, this sounds like every other New Year in review. I mean, like you probably just ask a few questions. What am I letting go of? That sounds really familiar. I want to just go and tell you this is not like every other New Year in review, because number one, this is specifically designed for both perfectionists and recovering perfectionists, unlike those other ones that are hella overwhelming and set your standards really, really high for yourself. And then you just let yourself down and you beat yourself up for it. No, that is not what this is. It is specifically designed for that perfectionist mindset. Number two, many of those copy and paste New Year in reviews do not understand the power of questions in our brain. Not only do we discuss the power of questions in the bundle, but we also dive into these 5 questions that are designed to activate a new part of our brain, which helps us get out of our heads and get into a more active way of thinking. Number 3, these questions are part 1 of this bundle. They're just part 1. Those 5 questions, yeah, that's just the first little exercise. You also get 2 more. You get my vision board breakdown exercise that helps you personalize your helps you personalize your board deeply to you and your vision. No more generic photos of a car or a beach that you're just like too overwhelmed, so you just slap it on there. No. This is for you to create the board of your dreams that is specific to you, because it's a very specific exercise on how we do it, and we break it all down. And you also get my signature visualization and journal practice, which, by the way, was our #1 bestseller during Black Friday. People have told me it's incredible. They want more of these coming forward in the future, which, by the way, yes, there will be, just not right now. This is an incredibly short practice. I think it's like 9 minutes, but it's so powerful. Some of the people who have been doing this exercise for a while, like my clients have been doing this for quite a while, they have manifested their dream houses, their dream partners, manifesting income that they thought was freaking impossible. They have manifested confidence that, quote unquote, feels like it came out of nowhere. It didn't. It was always inside them. And there's so much more. So this is not like every other year in review. By the way, number 4, I lost count. Other New Year's in reviews can be anywhere from like $100 to $1,000, which I think is ridiculous. This is not that. This is $23 for 3 exercises. You get 2 bonus exercises for what more normally people are charging $1,000 for, like those copy and paste ones. And it makes me mad. That's not what this is about. This is $23. You get the whole bundle. You can go to lifecoachbaker.com/New Year. And if you want a taste of it, listen to last week's episode. I broke down the 5 things I learned from this exercise that I did, because I do this myself every single year. I do the full exercise. And I talk about, and I talk about the 5 things I learned from that exercise specifically. So if you want a little taste of it, actually, I go through each of the questions, really. So if you want to just see what the questions are, go back to last week's episode. But today I want to zero in on a specific question in that New Year vision from the Ultimate New Year bundle. And that question is, what am I willing to let go of? And I love this question specifically because it's not just, feelings or beliefs or fears. It's also like, is there a habit that I'm doing that I'm willing to let go of? Is there a to-do list item that I'm willing to let go of? A goal that doesn't feel like it's serving me and I just have it still on my list for a should. It's what can I let go of? Expectations for myself. It's so much bigger than just like a little checklist item or a fear or whatever. Now, to be fair, some of these are fears, some of these are beliefs, but a lot of them go a lot deeper because they bleed a lot more into your life. So without further ado, let's dive into these 5. The first one I talked about last week, because when I was asking myself this question, this was the first and actually only one I wrote down when I was doing the exercise. I ended up going back and adding some more later just because I had some flowing through my head, which by the way is totally fine. You don't have to do this all in one sitting. But I ended up going back and writing a few more that were just kind of like, ooh, you know what? I do think that this is hurting me. I do want to let go of that. I want to release the pressure of this. But the core one is not at all business related. It's not as all, it's very personal, and I'm happy to share it because it is letting go of the need for my partner to be perfect. And I've talked about this not from my point of view, but actually from my clients' point of views for several years now. And I think that it's not just women, it's not just men. It can be any gender, it can be any partnership, homosexual, heterosexual, doesn't matter. But sometimes there's this need for that person to be just like on this whole other standard. And I've noticed it specifically with my partner, and especially sometimes falling into that male role. And which is silly because that's so not even how we operate. But I've caught myself in this past year. Now, to be fair, for a while I wasn't catching myself, and we were wondering why we kept on talking in circles so much. But after it like kind of dawned on me, and by the way, it dawned on me in the middle of one of our conversations, and I was like, oh my God, I am needing you to be perfect. And he looked at me and just like his shoulders dropped, and he's like, yeah. And since then, it's been at the top of my mind, and I've been able to catch myself doing it. I'm like, oh, you know what? Hold on. I'm noticing this. And sometimes I caught myself straight in the middle of a conversation, towards the end of a conversation that was really heavy and hard, where I was maybe being harder on him than I'd wanted to be. But since we've been pointing it out, and since we've been catching it, because sometimes he'll mention it, sometimes I do. And it just keeps getting shorter and shorter into the conversation, to the point of now where it's like, if he brings something up that is not perfect, I'm immediately into partner supportive mode, which I'm not going to lie is not a mode I was in for a long time. The irony of this, I totally understand. I'm a coach for perfectionists. I have nothing but sympathy and patience with my clients, even though I hold them to the standard of the goals that they want to achieve. But that doesn't mean I give them ample amounts of grace, because we're human beings. We get enough pressure from our heads. I don't want to be that voice of pressure, because that does not lead to long-term success and goal setting. That leads to bursts of motivation from a place of shame. Not on my watch. But I realized I was doing that with my partner, and it totally unconsciously. And I was like, oh my God, this is wild. And so the first thing I wrote down was, I need to let go of the need for Brett to be perfect. And I immediately came home after doing this exercise, because I was doing it with my friend Amber in downtown Denver. We were like on this rooftop of a really tall hotel down in Denver. We were overlooking half mountains, half the skyline. It was beautiful. But after I came home, I like threw everything down, and I looked directly at him, and I was like, I just learned this, and this is what I'm letting go of. And he just looked at me with just like this ample pride. It wasn't even like, yeah, you should. It was like, I'm so proud of you for realizing this. And I think it's because of that support in growing into the person we want to be individually, and the person we want to be as a supportive partner. That's one of the reasons I was able to identify and now catch myself on it so quickly. So what am I willing to let go of? It is that stress and tension I put not only on myself, but my partner as well. And that is just so not what I want to bring into 2023. And to be honest, we're actually off to a really good start. I didn't just say, okay, so I'm not going to bring it into 2023, so I'll focus on this in January. I was like, fuck, this needs to start now. And it has already been changing and making things so much more enjoyable and easier in so many different areas. So really good stuff there. I'm very, very, very proud. Number two, what am I willing to let go of? Social media scrolling. The dreaded, the one that seems to keep popping up. But what is happening to my voice? But one of the reasons I think it keeps popping up every single year is because, not every single year, it's only been these last 2 years, because one of the things as a business owner is, I don't think you need to be on social media, because I don't think you do. I truly don't. I see many successful people who are not. But one of the things I love doing is interacting with you all in the community. And that is very easy to do via the podcast and via social media. Just so that two different ways, we're going to gloss over that. Imperfect. But I realized, maybe a week ago, I was like, I think I'm doing this a little bit more than I'm used to. Like I've been very good about social media scrolling. I knew how much it hurt my productivity. So I put it away, and I realized not only was I feeling more empowered, not only was I feeling like I was accomplishing things quicker and easier and having more fun with them, but I was also just like, I was lighter. I was just like, oh, this feels so good. And I realized that I was slowly starting to bring more back into that social media scrolling. And I was like, whoa, this I noticed is hurting my mindset, which is hurting my productivity, which is hurting my energy, which is tumble down. And so that is something, again, I'm willing to let go of happily coming into 2023. What I've done is I've already in placed time blocks around it. So I have like a certain amount of time that I'm allowed to be on it every day. There we go. And making sure that it is really just as little as possible, because I just don't need to be on there. It is not helpful for me. And the time that I am on there, I want to be in the community. I don't want to be scrolling. That doesn't help. So that is something I am more than happy to let go of. And I will keep you guys posted, because this is something I know we all struggle with. And, I like, as much as I wish it was just like, okay, let me just like throw it out the window and throw it in the lake, because I have access to where I could probably, I don't know, maybe I'll try that someday. Not with my phone, but maybe like a rock. I don't know. I'll throw something in the lake sometime from my balcony. I want to see if I can make it. Anyway, but I know that this is something that is on a lot of our minds, and maybe holding ourselves accountable in this community is a really great way to do that. So social media scrolling is proudly number 2. Number 3, what am I willing to let go of, is demanding more. What do I mean by that? So often as perfectionists, we tend to look at where we're not at yet. We're very future focused. We're very in the, what am I creating? What am I like? How can I get there as fast as possible? Why am I not there yet? I should be further ahead, so on and so forth. And it's like demanding this, like it's never enough mindset. And I realize a lot of my stress and a lot of my unhappiness, which I'm very grateful for, being far less than it was years ago. But, I'm still always working on myself. This work never ends. Is that constant need to have more, be more, do more, and that it's never enough. And I do not like that. And as one of my mantras that combats this is I do not chase, I attract. And this is the background of my iPad, background of my computer. I do not chase, I attract. And what that means to me is when I'm in chase mode, I'm in like, let me get all the things. Let me get all the things. Let me get all the things. It's almost like I'm in like an Easter egg hunt, right? Like I'm constantly like, okay, search, get as fast as possible. I'm chasing it, right? And this subconsciously tells my brain, like, you're not enough yet. You're not enough yet. Once you get there, then you'll be enough. Oh, by the way, you're there now. It's actually this next thing. And that's just not helpful for anyone. And when I go into the, the second part of that, I attract. Attraction to me feels like expanding, which we'll get into more in the segments of today. But expanding is my word of the year for 2023. Last year was big. Actually have it. If you're on YouTube, you can see it right here on my ring. It's on my middle finger. I'm not going to flip you off because that's mean. And maybe YouTube will see that. But I have it on a ring on my middle finger that says big. And this to me was like play bigger. And to be honest, I really think I did that. But the reason I think it was so top of mind is because I had it on my hand. Next year, however, is expand. And that to me means so much more than just like energy expansion, because it means like expanding my family. I'm getting married next year. I'm so excited. Expanse to me also feels like when we're in control, it feels so contracting, and contraction is the antithesis of expanse to me. And so releasing that control, letting it come to you. And I want to talk on this for a second, because I was talking about this with a client not too long ago, like this idea of release and expanding. And they're like, well, I can't do that because then I'll forget about this, or I won't get this done. I won't achieve these things. And it's like, hold on. I think that we forget that when we release control on something, that doesn't mean we just like sit there and twiddle our thumbs and we're like, okay, I'm waiting. No, we're taking guided action. And I'm not saying like close your eyes and like, guided like that. I'm saying guided like we're in our hearts more than our heads, right? We're in mission more than stress and drive and control. And I think that when we release that and we act from a place of attraction, expansion, it becomes more fun. We play more, we breathe more, we're more creative because we're less in this pressure cooker. So number 3 really encompasses a lot of things. And to be honest, I have my waves with it. It's much less, and it's much, less often now, but recently, and I talked about this last week, like I had a big one, which actually kicked off doing this whole 5-part exercise. I was like, I need to do this now. So here we are. Number 4 is kind of like almost a sub part of that previous one. And that is letting go of the need to be in control around the wedding. Oh, weddings. I love them. I love them so much. And planning your own is amazing. And I've had a lot of fun with it. Both Brett and I have been doing this pretty 50-50, and we've really enjoyed creating this day. But one of the things we noticed that we were doing was feeling like we needed to be in control of how everyone was doing, how everyone was acting. And yes, I know how ridiculous that sounds, but to be honest, I'm just going to be vulnerable with you. That's really what we were in. And especially because we're having such a small wedding, we're only having a 35-person wedding. And that's because we want it to be very intimate. We want it to be very, where we're able to talk to everyone. And, certain things just keep coming out of left field, where it's like, okay, now I need to reimagine the day. Now I need to reimagine the day. And it's like almost, we keep on learning the lesson that we cannot be in control. And recently we learned a lesson that really just like drilled that in. And it was kind of like I finally threw my hands up in the air and I was like, this is making me miserable. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot feel the need to be in control. And so Brett and I had a big conversation about it, where it was like, we need to just release it, and we just need to like enjoy, because the second we have control, we have expectations, and we had really high expectations around this wedding day. And yeah, it's your wedding day. You have one of these a year probably, and a year. Wait, hold on. You have one of these a lifetime. There you go. Again, probably not for everyone, but we're hoping this is our one and done. And we had a lot of these really high expectations around it. And finally, we were just looking at each other, and it's like, we need to let go of that and really just do us and enjoy us on this day, and let everyone else just like be what they're going to be. And when we did that, it was like, this huge sigh of relief. So we've added a few things to our wedding day that now feel like moments for us to just be us together. Like, for instance, we're going completely against tradition and spending the night together before the wedding. Scandalous, I know. But like we have this little cottage that's separate from the house that everyone else is staying at, because we wanted everyone to be under the same roof. But we have this little cottage that's separately, that was specifically just for the wedding night. And we decided, let's do both nights. Like, I want to wake up next to you on our wedding day and like lean over and be like, let's get married today. And like, I know that there's some people who are going to listen to this and be like, It's blasphemous. But to be honest, I first of all need you to respect our decision to do things a little bit differently that make more sense for us and where we're wanting to go with this. But that little decision suddenly was like, oh my God, I feel so much more comfortable, so much more enjoying. And like, it just immediately takes that expectation of like what the morning of the wedding should be. And it's just like, wow, I just get to be present with you. And that was huge and a huge decision that we made. And we're making a few little ones and we're still, figuring those out, but letting go of control around the wedding. And that is going to take some reminding, let me tell you, because we're about to hit, like, basically January happens and it's like, all right, it's go time. We're in 6-month window. It's, crafting and it's figuring out the last little things. I will say we did just do our maybe I'll do a huge episode on like the wedding debrief, and probably Brett will come on for that one as well. Because two perfectionists planning a wedding is just as hilarious and enjoyable and stressful as you think it would be. But we've really done a good job of making it very us. And I'm really excited to see that come to more fruition. But we did just do our wedding tastings for a menu and just like little things where I'm like, wow, it's just getting more and more real. And I'm so excited. Last but not least, the final thing I am letting go of. And this should have been number 2, to be honest, on my list, but dropping the need for Brett to be perfect was too high on my important meter. But this is really high too. And it's letting go of the fear around being vulnerable. There's an interesting thing that happens when you're in this position, when you're a podcast host, when you're a coach, when you're someone that people will look up to. And to be honest, I don't say that as like a toss. I would say that as like the messages that I receive. I'm so overflowing with grateful energy. And when you're in this position, there's this little fear in the back of your head that says like, oh, if you let your walls down, if you show them the deep, dark depths of Nicole Baker, it's not going to be, you're not going to be someone they look up to anymore. And I know that's not true. And in fact, whenever I've let walls down with people before, whether it's on this podcast or in coaching calls or group coaching calls, there's been this shift in the energy in the room, in the show, and I can feel it shifting into what I want it to become. Now, does that mean, and I think that there's a big thing around being vulnerable where it's always sad. And I don't want that to be the case. In this past year, I've really started opening up about like, I'm a video gamer. I love it. I'm so excited for Hogwarts Legacy to come out. I can't even tell you, but I just found out the Switch has now been postponed till the summer and I'm going to cry, but that's a different story. But like I've recently opened up about that. And some of you come out and been like, oh my God, have you tried this game? We had Julia Bianco Scheffling on the show because of me opening up about that. And she was amazing to talk to. And it really shows that when you let those walls down, when you start showing the good, the bad, and the ugly of the vulnerable side of you, of the true side of you, it really does. It doesn't shift people's perception of you. And if it does, that's fine. This isn't the podcast for you. And that's okay. And I need for that to be okay. In my head as well, like not just in my logic, in my head. But I just, so one of the big things that I've been focusing on with my coach, with my 4 dear friends who are also business owners, is that vulnerability and letting those walls down and letting that talking. I keep on saying this phrase, and I think there's a reason. Talking from the heart, not the head. And I feel like in the past, I've done a lot of head talk because it's safe. And to be honest, sometimes I think it's necessary when we're teaching or when we're being logical, it is a lot from the head because we're activating the brain. But when it's stories to deepen the exercises or stories to let those walls down, you can't do that from the head. And I'm learning how to tap into the heart right now. And that is something I'm really excited to explore in 2023. Yeah, I think that's all I need to say on that. So that is my 5 things that I am so excited to let go of. And just crafting my new year around the releasing of those and the embracing of new and exciting things. So if you are wanting to start thinking of, actually, I encourage you, please, to start thinking about what you are wanting to let go of, what you do not see serving you in 2023. Again, this can be goals that you've had on your list that are just causing you stress and that don't feel aligned anymore. This can be identities, habits, fears, blocks, beliefs, to-do list items. I mean, there's no limit here, and which is kind of scary for perfectionists. We don't like open-ended questions. In fact, back in school, I would hate English class. The SATs, the English section of the SATs. I don't even remember what it's actually called because I hated it so much. I disliked it because it was always open-ended questions. And I like math. There's a right and a wrong. And I think that's very telling of, we like the black and the white. The black and the white is safe. The yes and the no, the up and the down, those binaries are so safe. And in that gray, in that open-ended, it's scary, it's uncertain. We could say something that someone will take wrong. And so we decide not to say it at all out of fear of people pleasing, or fear of hurting someone's feelings, which stems from people pleasing. But I'm excited to embrace the gray. I'm excited to embrace that middle. And I forgot where I was going with this. So if you are starting to figure out what you want to let go of, please do so. If you want the full guided questions, these full 5 questions, in addition to the vision board exercise, in addition to the visualization, you can get the full Ultimate New Year bundle. And that is for $23. It is at lifecoachbaker.com/bundle, or you can just click the link in the show notes. I made it nice and easy for you. But this is one of those things I created, and I was like, I cannot believe it took me this long to make this, because this is something that needed to be made years ago, but I wasn't ready. I was not there where I could make it and sit down and fully dive this out in these 5 questions, because these are the 5 questions that I can't even tell you how powerful they are. There's one in particular that just like activates your brain in an entirely different way. And I love it. It's so fun. So again, lifecoachbaker.com/new year. Last but not least, let's dive into some segments, shall we? Number 1, goal to celebrate. I did this exercise. I'm celebrating the fact that I sat down, made the time for this, and dove into it and let it come from my heart, not my head. I sat down wanting it to come from my head because I practiced these questions as I was creating them. I was like, oh, I can say this, I can say that. But I sat down and I was like, scratch all of that. Let's just be present and say whatever I need to say. And that was really scary and cool. So hooray, goal to celebrate is I did the exercise. It is now January 2nd. I'm recording this a little early, but by this time I'll also have done my New Year's vision board, and I'm so excited. And I'll also be in the process of coming back from a almost 2 week vacation, and holy crap, I'm so excited. Last but not least, how was I imperfect this week? Every year I make a word of the year. Like I mentioned, last year was big. If you're on YouTube, here's my middle finger again. And I felt like I needed to create a word this year. I was like, okay, well, my jewelry, I always make a word of the year and I put it on a piece of jewelry. 2 years ago, it was mission and it was a necklace. Last year, it was big and it was a ring. I have no idea what it's going to be this year. I'm not really a bracelet person. Earrings don't feel right for words. maybe I'll do another ring. I don't know. I'm figuring it out. I'm adding a lot of rings to my hands this year, so I don't know how that's going to go. But I felt like I needed to create this word of the year, and I was putting a lot of stress and pressure around it. I was like, oh, what's my word going to be? What's my word going to be? Completely forgetting that when I let go, it just plops into my head. And finally, I remembered that again. And I was like, okay, let it go. Like maybe it'll come to me. And later on that day, Brett said the word expand. And I was like, oh, that's it. That word right there. That one. And that's a big one. I'm pulling back and forth though, between expand and heart. Like I mentioned, the speaking from the head, not the heart, is something I'm wanting to let go of. So really activating that heart and reminding my brain of it, heart. So maybe it'll be expand heart expand. I don't know. I'll probably choose between one of those two. Maybe I'll do both. And maybe I'll have like a little ring stuck on my hand. Stay tuned. Maybe the next time you see me on YouTube, I'll have multiple rings. You never know. There's a little teaser for you. My sweet, beautiful friends, I love you. I adore you. Happy flippin' New Year. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Share it on social media. Tag me at Life Coach Baker. This is one of the best ways to get the show out there to more people, which is a huge thing we are wanting to create for this next year, is making this show the big impact that I know it's meant to be. And that does come from a little bit of help from you guys. I will do my best to do everything I can on my end, but I do need to ask that of you as well. In addition, if you have a quick spare moment, going to that iTunes, hitting the 5-star button, going to Spotify, hitting the 5-star button. If you want to write a little love note in the review section, that would be amazing. But if we're wanting to bump up the charts, this is the best thing to do. By the way, don't only do this for my show. If you have other people who you love in your life and other podcasters who you really enjoy, please do this for them too. Spread the love, my friends. Last but not least, this podcast and this entire show would be impossible to do without our incredible editor and producer, Ariel Villafane. I love you. You make me happy this coming new year. I adore you all. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Happy New Year.